And welcome back to Capitol Tonight. Today, Governor Andrew Cuomo introduced legislation to create a new pension tier for public workers. Tier 6 would increase employee contributions to their pensions and also raise the retirement age from 62 to 65. Now, the governor says this will save the state $93 billion over the next 30 years, and that actually is not including New York City. The number goes up if you include the 5 boroughs. This comes on the same day that Common Cause New York and the New School sponsored a panel discussion on public sector pensions. Joining me now is one of the panelists. He is former Lieutenant Governor Richard Ravitch. It is good to see you, Mr. Ravitch. Great to see you.
Nice to be back with you.
So, you know, it's actually pretty fortuitous, but this happens to all happen on the same day. But this is something you've been warning about for quite some time, that pensions, if not reined in some way, shape, or form, will actually bankrupt the city and the state. But the trouble is, of course, don't the public employee unions have to agree?
First of all, I never really said that it would cause bankruptcy. I said that the pressure on increased pension obligations was inconsistent with the budget deficits that the state and cities and counties were dealing with in this state.
I see.
And if you look at the enormity of the growth of pension obligations to maintain adequate funding, and add to that the growing obligations on health care, on other obligations beside retirement pensions, this is a very serious problem. And though I have not studied the details of this bill, it is certainly consistent with the government's good faith effort to try to get the revenues and expenses of the state government back in balance, to suggest that another pension tier is part of the problem.
Okay.
I don't think that.
You don't think that, because
the solution
right.
to the fiscal problem is solely to be borne on the backs of public employees.
Right.
A lot of other people have to participate. Everybody's going to have to contribute to the solution.
Well, let me just stop you there for a second. I want to ask you just quickly, creation of another tier. I mean, just a year ago we created a 5th tier. Now the governor's talking about creating a 6th tier. Is that going to be sufficient to actually keep the costs down, or is the real problem already borne by the fact that you have a lot of retirees that are making a considerable amount of money? I mean, do we have to really try something drastic, actually, which would be?
Well, I think that the creation of another tier has importance in the long term for the state and for the counties and that are affected by it, because we're not going to be hiring a lot of people. If anything, we're going to be letting people go in the future.
True.
So therefore, the impact on the budget in the short term of a new pension tier is going to be negligible. I think in the long term, it's probably something that should be fully debated and seriously considered. Furthermore, I believe that it's important that the public and the media keep a watchful eye, because so many times in the past, the creation of a new pension tier has been followed in more prosperous period thereafter with legislation that doesn't get headlines, that ends up restoring the benefits to what they were in the tier that existed prior to the new one that was legislated.
Yeah, we call those pension sweeteners. There's actually quite a few of those kicking around the legislature right now, even some of them sponsored by fiscally responsible, quote-unquote, lawmakers on the Republican side of the aisle. I just want to ask, though, do you think, I mean, aren't pensions generally constitutionally protected? You can't go back in and tinker with what's already done, right? So.
Well, I believe that they are protected. I will tell you that around the United States today, because New York's not alone in facing this kind of fiscal problem, there are legal challenges to the nature of those obligations. Every state has different constitutional or statutory language, and there are serious legal challenges. They're going to be filed all over this country to that proposition.
Do you expect that in New York, Mr. Ravitch? Do you expect that coming down the pike?
No, I think the constitutional language is very clear in New York, but more importantly, you know, I believe that retirement benefits are part of what makes public service attractive to people. And I don't think you can view the merits of retirement benefits outside of the context of salary and what do we need to do to get the right kind of people into public service. I'm not saying that it's dispositive of the question, but it's certainly a relevant question the public ought to consider. And in this time of fiscal austerity, there is nonetheless a legitimate concern about the quality of people that we bring in as teachers, that we bring in as public servants, and all the rectitude that's directed to public employees by such a large part of the population of the press and Tea Party types it's just not justified.
If I could just interrupt you briefly before we run out of time. Those two things seem diametrically opposed, though. If in fact you need to keep attracting good people, but at the same time keep costs down, and states and local governments are facing such an enormous fiscal problem, then those things actually seem at odds, don't they?
No, I don't think so. I think you have to balance things. Serious people are considering what changes can be made to Social Security and Medicare to deal with a federal budget deficit that's totally out of control and jeopardizes the well-being of this country. And I think that if rational, thoughtful, caring people don't address these problems realistically and just stick by the old political shibboleths, we're going to get into terrible, terrible trouble. So I think all of these issues have to be discussed and compromised as part of everybody getting together to get us out of the fiscal mess we're in. So
you're a Democrat. I mean, you've been involved in state government for a very long time. You touched just now on Medicare reform. The Paul Ryan Medicare reform proposal has been a big political issue. Do you believe, in fact, that the proposal should be actually considered? That the Democrats...
I don't believe that that proposal is the devil incarnate. I think the issues that are raised, I don't happen to agree with Paul Ryan, but I agree with, for example, with a proposal that Alice Rivlin and Dee Concini put forward that has a lot of similarities to the Ryan plan. I think the Ryan plan has been mischaracterized in some respects, and I think both parties have been guilty of overdoing the political advantages that each represent with their rhetoric. The Republicans with their anti-public employee rhetoric, and the Democrats suggesting the Republicans want to destroy every institution that we have. And the truth is, ultimately, there's going to have to be a compromise.
Well,
and if there isn't, we're in worse shape.
Unfortunately, we are also out of time. Hopefully, cooler heads will prevail. When you get out of office, you might have a better opportunity to speak a little truth to power and less partisan rhetoric there. I want to thank you very much, former Lieutenant Governor Ravitch. It's great to see you.
Nice to see you.